Hi and welcome, Todd Cahill. You're listening to the It's Not Out There, but It's In You podcast, where on this podcast we talk all about the battles that we all face in our life and really how the battles that we face affect us and how we can think differently about each battle and start redefining its meaning so we can start relinquishing its power over us. See, it's a choice you have to make every day to become the best you. So we want to help you return to the battle at hand, the issues that you face, redefine what their meanings are, and then repeat the cycle over and over in order to keep winning the battle that you face. So stay tuned. So glad you're here. Thanks for listening. Hey, welcome. Todd Cahill here. Welcome to the It's Not Out There, It's In You podcast. So this is episode 1. Dream come true for me to do this. And first and foremost, just so excited for you to listen in to this podcast. There is thousands of other podcasts out there. And what I really, my vision for this podcast, what I really wanted to accomplish is I wanted a raw podcast that's specifically about, really the first 12 episodes, is really what the battle is between you versus you. So I don't know if you ever thought about it that way, but I think a lot of times we always think it's us versus the world and us versus them. When in a lot of ways it is in certain cases. Let's say, obviously, if you're in sports, there's a team that you have to defeat, and that's the goal. It's us versus them, and being a former athlete, I definitely can relate to that. But after many, many years of personal growth and just going through so many different internal battles, I wrote a book called You Versus You, The 12 Ways to Kick Your Own Ass and Win. It comes out everywhere in retail, February 19th, 2019. It is absolutely a dream come true to be a published author. My publisher is Greenleaf Publishing, and they're based out of Austin, Texas. And today I wanted to specifically discuss something that I think every single one listening in battles with first and foremost, and that's our dreams. Our dreams. What is our dreams? What do we want to accomplish in life? And we might have a dream when we're a young boy, young girl, and that could be, like for me, it was the 8th grade. I finally started to read personal development, and I started to jot down some of my goals and some of the things that I want to accomplish, and one of them was to be in the NBA. Back then, Michael Jordan, it was the mid-90s, and he was in his prime, and really just followed him his whole career and just really loved the game of basketball, and wrote down I want to play Division I basketball for North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and kind of followed the same path. And I kind of laughed because, I didn't know much better. I was a little naive. I'm from upstate New York in a small town. In fact, at that time in 8th grade, I was in a school called Perth Bible Christian Academy, which, I think we had like 13 students in my 8th grade class, and I don't even think it's in existence today. Hopefully it is. I'm not sure. But it's in a city called Amsterdam, New York. I don't know the population there, maybe 10,000 people. I'm not really sure. But, I don't know if you can relate, but growing up in a small town, there's a lot of small town thinkers. They thought small. They, didn't really want to do big things with their life, but I certainly did. But who would have known that the author of that book, The Success Journey, was a guy by the name of John Maxwell. And John Maxwell right now is huge in leadership, and he's America's, really just most wanted when it comes to leadership. I mean, travels all over the world and got good friends there, and just amazing man. Tons of books out. I definitely recommend the first book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So I read this book, The Success Journey, and when I was early 20s, I actually got the opportunity to work for him for about 2 years. And seeing an author at work and hiring people like myself, I don't know if you call it millennial at that time, because now I'm 37, 38. But I was I was busting it, $25,000 a year. I thought I hit the jackpot working for a thought leader like Dr. John Maxwell, and being around this environment of just people pushing each other up and corporate America. And but I did that after I dropped out of college. I did that after I went to 3 different colleges, actually 2. I went to college after John Maxwell, dropped out of that. So I dropped out of 2 colleges out of 3. One, I transferred to Liberty University, which is an amazing school. And for me, college just wasn't the deal. I don't know how a lot of people, they look at college and they think that they have a secure future and all this stuff. And I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just knew I wanted to lead, kind of do what I'm doing right now. And working for John, I just really had this burning desire to be a writer, but I never knew what that looked like. And how do I write a book? I mean, I barely got a C, B minus in English, even though I really enjoyed English class and I enjoyed writing. I just didn't think I was good enough, or didn't think I could really, put together something that people would actually pay for. And I mean, this was obviously many, many years ago, 15, 16 years ago. Well, statistically, I recently read that 98% of people in the world want to write a book, which is a lot. But 99.1% of the 98% never do. So, here I am, book coming out, retail, 15, 16 years later. And it's been a crazy journey. And one of the things that I want to stress here is that dreams are very, very costly. That's why most people don't accomplish their dreams. That's why most people quit when the going gets tough. And it's not just financially, although, it definitely takes money to make money. That is a true statement by every stretch of the imagination. It definitely does take money to make money. It's not like a no money down, your dreams are free, just got to hustle and grind. When people say that on social media, it kind of makes me a little upset. It's like grind and hustle. It's like, yeah, you still need if you're to be an author, you can, self-publish. It's going to cost money. You need a marketing campaign, you need a website, you need to go out there and grow your audience. You need to, put in the time and resource in your social media platform. And, you need to put in some videos and get some videography work and some vlogs. And, you need to know your message. You need to know, all that stuff. So obviously, a lot of that takes money. A lot of it takes a big, big dream and a lot of people to believe in you. And of course, you, most importantly, you hear this a lot, you have to believe in yourself. But I think it just comes down to the bottom line is that I just really had this burning desire inside of me that I wanted to write a book. But my journey took me on this thing a lot of you probably heard of called network marketing. So I don't know if you ever heard of network marketing before, but a lot of you might roll your eyes to that. But it is an interesting kind of format because anyone can join a network marketing company, which is super cool. I mean, it doesn't matter. I started broke. I mean, after I worked for John, I sat down with the great Pat Williams, the vice president of the Orlando Magic, and I read his book, Be Like Mike. It's in actually my book, The Story. And I just read this book out at Walmart, while I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just started reading it and just dissecting it, and my passion for basketball came back into play, and I just started picking up the game again and just started playing, after work, and early 20s still, and still eligible to play college basketball. I think I had 2 or 3 years left, and ended up dropping out because not dropping out, but quitting John Maxwell because Pat Williams says, "Why are you working for him? Why not become the next John Maxwell?" I actually was doing really well. One of the top salesmen at Maxwell Company. It was called Enjoy at the time, and in Duluth, Georgia. And liked my job, but I was still struggling a lot financially. Didn't like that. And we hosted a lot of simulcasts for John. So my job was to promote and get butts and seats, if you will, all across the country and also Canada, American Canada, and talk to pastors and their lay leaders and fill up rooms with business people in their communities to get them into these places where they would hear John through a simulcast, and people like Rudy Giuliani and Joe Gibbs of NASCAR Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing and all these great leaders, male and female, and just really had a heart for leadership. Always have, always will. Because, part of the premise of the book is you versus you. You got to lead yourself. And yes, you can, tell everyone your dreams and get advice and get mentors. But if you don't know how to lead yourself in that path of your dreams, then no one's going to lead you to your dreams. And once I really figured it out that if I can just lead myself effectively, especially in the network marketing, MLM industry, a lot of people would follow me, right? If I had passion, if I had conviction, if I had certainty, if I knew what my dreams were. But to be honest with you, I didn't know a lot of what my dreams were. I just knew I had this burning desire to be successful. So when you're listening to this, I really want you to understand something. It doesn't matter what age you are right now. If you don't have a burning desire, I would really, really, if I was sitting down with you at a Starbucks, I would really just have a conversation, be like, where does your energy flow? Where does it go? What do you think about? What do you dream about? What do you cry about? What are some of the things that you just love doing and thinking about, and it's on your brain? For me, it's not just the monetization of something. It's the sharing the message. It's what is the message? But you know what? God's interesting because I'm a man of faith, and he really had to take me on a journey in these past 14, 15 years, a major, major journey of starting with a company from scratch, being homeless in San Diego after I dropped out of the second time at Houghton College, I should say, in upstate New York, and played a semester there and did really well athletically in the basketball team, but ended up dropped out because my grades were 1.9. That was pretty much the end of it. And then moved 2 or 3 weeks later after I read the book Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, and two people I wasn't even friends with at the time, just network with them, and they were starting a church called Existence Church in San Diego, and kind of invited myself, but they also prayed about it and invited me to come on over to San Diego, and I'd never even been there, and I was 22, 23 years old, and I just said, okay, I guess I'm going to San Diego. And I remember asking my dad for money. He gave me $500, and I think I had maybe $1,000 total. And I just drove my car, and it was just me at the time, and no family, no kids at that time. And I just remember going to San Diego, and they kind of hooked me up with about 4 or 5 other roommates, if you will, dudes in a house. And what an experience that was. No money, had to get a job. Got a job as a personal trainer. Did that for 8 months. Really saw what corporate America can do to someone. I mean, no offense to personal trainers, but I think anyone that works for someone else is going to be working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For me, it was Monday through Saturday. Being at the gym by 5:45 in the morning, leaving around, 4 or 5, I can't remember. I think it was like 5 or 6 at night. And of course, San Diego was from San Diego to Carlsbad and back. So no life, making bare minimum, maybe 14 to $20 an hour, if that, before taxes, and ended up getting my car repossessed. That was fun. But interesting story about that. It was twice. I got it repossessed, then I spent the $1,400 or whatever it was, because I was like back $300. It was a Nissan Altima, used. I bought it in college. So a couple years later, couldn't keep up with the $300+ car note, and I think I was, obviously 90 days they come get it. So do the math, like 330 times 3 plus penalties. So I think it was like $1,400 or something, and I literally gave the last money I had to get it. My pastor had to bail me out. Not really bail me out, but, the embarrassing part is bring me there. And, and I was on staff and everything. So it was super embarrassing, money, what money does, if you don't have it, it's just, just embarrassing. And it wasn't like I wasn't working hard. I was working my tail off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just working and working and working. And it just wasn't enough. I just wasn't getting paid enough. And a month or two goes by, and I missed another month or two, and they just took it. I forget, it was either Labor Day, Memorial Day, one of those weekends, long weekends, and they took it the day of the holiday. I think it was a Monday, might have been Memorial Day. And the previous evening, I was at a party in Venice, and it was some pretty cool actors were there, people I really admired, and yeah, we're just partying, having fun, with a client and who I trained, and she was a good friend. And next day, I spent pretty much all day and all night up, and come back home, and woke up and made my oatmeal and put it in my microwave. Had my little ritual: egg whites and oatmeal. And I was pretty big at the time, pretty muscular, trying to look like a personal trainer, if you will. And then went to the front, and there was no car. And then my first thought was, oh my God, somebody stole my Nissan Altima right from my driveway. And second thought was, oh shoot, I didn't pay the car note. Second time on church staff. What do? That was September 2004. One of the things that I started to do, and this is really episode 1, because I can't just get right into it, because a lot of you that are listening in, you might not know who I am, and you might not follow me on Instagram or Facebook or stuff like that. And I'm a new upcomer. I've accomplished some things, but it's been mostly in the network marketing industry for 14 years. going, as best I can mainstream to get my message out. And I'm going to tell you what my message is here in a little while through this first podcast, just so you know what I'm all about and how it's going to really help you and impact you through these episodes and, the 12 battles that we face. And I'm going to take, each battle from my book and interview some people. And some episodes I'll do myself, and some episodes I'll bring on someone that is really, really successful and significant in that category, if you will. But yeah, hold on to your seats, because it's going to be a journey. And I believe that my message and really what I wrote in this book is universal. I know not everyone is going to maybe agree with it. Maybe not everyone's going to understand it. It's great for salespeople. It's great for networkers. It's great for entrepreneurs. But really, it's just great for the person that just has dreams, but they don't know what to do, and all these inner voices and all these the battle within the 6 inches of their head, and they're the mindset's off, and they're not really unleashing their winning mindset. So we're going to get to that. But here's what happened. Here I am. The thing about getting my car repossessed the second time, I actually got a cab. My last money before actually I got overdraft charges, and went from San Diego to Mira Mesa, the little kind of street, a place, if you will. It's a place, but there's what's called Mira Mesa Boulevard, and you can actually get a lot of different places from that street, and just kind of a place where a lot of people live. We're talking thousands. So there's a lot of traffic on that main road, the Mira Mesa Boulevard in San Diego. And from there, I went from a cab all the way to La Costa Avenue, which is an exit off the main highway there. I think it's the 5. I haven't lived there in a while, but now I make my home in Chicago, Illinois, with my wife and kids and everything. But single at the time, and got a cab. I don't know how much that cost, probably $40-$50, which is cheap compared to what it would be now, I'm sure. It was 2004, September. And I begged for my job back. So I don't know if you've ever been in a place in life where you're begging for your job back. I mean, just think about that. You're just like begging and begging and begging, and just, please, I could be a better worker, I'll get a car and stuff. And my boss, I forget his name, but I never saw him again. And he was a young, pretty strong personality, very successful, drove the Porsche, drove the pickup truck, lived on a condo on the ocean in Carlsbad, single, probably early 30s at that time. And he just, he appreciated that I came, and he appreciated all that. It was very nice to me, but he said, no, please leave, basically get the hell out of here. And I just remember with my head in my tail, and I think I had a cell phone back then. It shut off literally that day, later on that day, but I had a cell phone, and I called both my pastor buddies. One was Sean, and the other guy was named Josh. And they came and picked me up, and they were just, they kind of sympathetic, but also like, hey, dude, why don't you pay your car bill? What's going on? You're on staff. You're kind of an embarrassing character here. So later that day, they dropped me off, and I told them, look, I'm going to be a millionaire. Look, I'm going to make incredible income of doing what I love. I don't know what that looks like yet. And from there, dropped me off and stuff. And literally, like, I can't remember if it was that day or the next day, but literally 24 hours or less, got my phone shut off. I checked my WAMU account, Washington Mutual at the time, which they went belly up, WAMU.com, and negative $200-something. I think of 3 Red Bulls the day before, 35 per Red Bull, overdraft charge, whatever it was, plus some other things. So I'm literally negative my bank account. Living with 4 roommates, rent was due. I love that saying, rent is due. It's just such a motivating thing. Every day, our, rent's due on our dreams every single day. And, after that, here I am, no computer. I borrowed a desktop from my roommate named Matt at that time. And, what do? I have no phone, can't call my mom, can't call my dad, can't rely on, they didn't have the money anyway, even if I could get a hold of them to ask for money. 23 years old at the time. So what I did is I just started, thinking. And I think that's what a lot of people just don't understand. When they're down, they just kind of panic. And there's like there's a huge panic when someone's down and out. Like, what do I do? Blah, blah. I did something that I think anyone listening could really do and take action on. Is I just started creating thoughts on a notebook, and I went to Barnes and Noble, and this is where this dream of writing and becoming an author took place. And everything I say, this isn't about just talking about my story. Like I said, I want to do an introduction, kind of know where I'm coming from, so the audience knows you guys kind of, why listen to someone like this? Because I truly believe that my story is so relatable because I didn't come from money. I dropped out of college, struggled my whole life financially. My parents did. Had a dream, worked my tail off to get a Division I scholarship, which I did. And in a small town, moved to a big city after I dropped out San Diego, knew no one. But I just knew something was digging at my heart. So if you have anything digging at your heart and you don't know what that is, maybe you need to just start to pause, hit the pause button on life, so to speak. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a weekend. We all can hit pause sometime. You don't have to always go. Even if you are broke and you need to make money and you're like panicking. But yeah, I took a notepad and pen and I just started writing and I had a bicycle, which was my friend Jason's. And I used to share on stage, in my MLM career. That wasn't the saddest day of my life, all that stuff happening. The worst day of my life was about a month later when my friend Jason actually asked for his bike back because he started dating a woman who I think he's now married to. And he just wanted his bike back because they want to go on bike rides. So now I have no transportation. That was my transportation for a while. Really that first month, going to Target, going to, payphone. That's how I started my business on and getting from point A to point B. So that was I wasn't destitute, but man, was I broke and never want to go back to those days. But I think the pain really draws in a lot of just this incredible self-awareness that people need to have. And there's been many times in my life where I've been doing so well that I didn't really, I wasn't failing a lot. So the self-awareness wasn't taking place and I kind of lost who I really was and, anger, anxiety and, or cockiness and arrogance, like, oh yeah, I'm the man, like that song, I'm the man, right? I wasn't the man. I think when you're a real man is when you are very humble, you're always wise and you're making the right choices. You're very mindful of things that are happening to you. You're very wise with your money. You're very, but you're also very driven too. But bottom line is this, guys. I went to Barnes & Noble and I started visualizing this could be my life. I could be an author. I could be on this. This is going to make a great story one day. This is going to make a great story one day. So I think visualization has a lot to do with you versus your dreams. It really, really does. You've got to start visualizing. What does your dreams look like? Henry David Thoreau says, if you have built the castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundation under them. So what is he saying? He's saying, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundation under them. So dreams, the vision, what I wanted to go after in my life, it was there. It was in the clouds still. Pastors laughing at me. Oh, you're going to be a millionaire, all this stuff, right? Well, here comes network marketing a month later, introduced to a company called Prepaid Legal Services. Now it's called Legal Shield. And that's where I started. They were about 33 years old at the time, publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Cost $250 to join. I think it was special, $149 to join. I borrowed it on my mom's American Express card or whatever it was. And a stranger actually introduced me to it on Craigslist when I was looking from work for home positions because I really just had a passion for entrepreneurship and wanted to be a business owner. And then was introduced to it and first 5 months just absolutely failed. Even though I was doing everything that everyone told me to do, but I didn't have a phone, so I had to go on a payphone, I had to invite people to my house and just had this opening and nobody signed up. And you know how those things are in network marketing. If you've ever been involved or even invited, I'm sure everyone listening at least has been in network marketing once or have been invited to someone's living room for a quote unquote presentation. And that was me. And I think like 8 people showed up. I think my roommates didn't come though, of course. That's just a typical story. But 5, I think, came later on, an hour and a half later. And the DVD wasn't working at that time. I mean, just, you've been through all of it. And after the 5th month, I just gained some traction. I started kind of being coachable and following that system they had and eventually started making some really good money. And, 5,000, 10,000, 11,000, 12, 15, 20 plus thousand over the course of a few years. And that really opened up my eyes. And make a long story short, public speaking I was so scared of it. I was so nervous and threw up 9 times my first speech, the night before. But these are all the things that were kind of the puzzle pieces that God was putting together for me to kind of make me the leader that He really wanted me to become. And now looking back on it, I'm very thankful for all those moments of just the struggle, the ups and downs and kind of learning. Because when you develop a skill set, it's a confidence thing. You just start to really feel, you could take money away, you could take businesses away, but if you have this skill set of certain things that maybe the masses don't have, like let's say, for instance, public speaking, doing a podcast, doing presentations, a conference call, it all started very slow. And I'm a very slow learner. I never took an IQ test, but I'm sure it's not that high, and I'm not trying to talk bad about myself, but it's just not that high, I'm sure. I mean, I could barely pass any class in my life. Very horrible test taker. Well, here's what I have, and this, I want to kind of really get into you versus your dreams and really talk about that. What I have is a knack for listening or reading or both and taking action on it right away. I'm an action-oriented guy. Sometimes it takes me longer than maybe it should, but at the end of the day, if I really need to or have to do something, I will do it. And in MLM, you don't get paid if you don't take action. So about 14 years of doing that. After 8 years of that, went to a skincare company. And did even better. We just created an organization of 100,000 people all over the country and even parts of the world. And didn't agree with a few things with the company. I'll just leave it at that. And started a coaching practice. Did 65 clients. Did a couple posts on Facebook and just had some great clients. Still do that to this day. Coach people group wise, one-on-one. Do a lot with that. Just coaching is good. I know it takes a lot of time one-on-one. But a lot of confidence boosters for me on that, because I've really helped a lot of people transform their life by finding their message, by understanding what that message looks like, by drawing that out. If you ever, figured out, I think that's really one of the first steps of, defining what your even dreams are. Let's say you want to be XYZ, but what is it? What is it about you that makes you so special? Well, I think we all have a message because of our failures, because of our circumstances, our challenges that we faced in life. And mine is just I'm making a difference in people's lives. As I realized, the answer is not out there, but in me. Now, what do I mean by that? As I realized that the answer is not out there, because I think a lot of us are just looking all the time. The answers are out there. It's got to be out there. It's got to be. He's got to have the answer. She's got to have the answer. My pastor has to have the answer. My church has to have the answer, right? And I get on a spiritual level, obviously God, I believe, like I've said, I'm a man of faith. So God is the answer. Okay, there's no question. But I believe also God has created you who you are. And the answer is in you. You have what it takes. But you've got to understand what are the battles that you're going to face in this life. And if you could better prepare for those battles, if you can prep better, if you can just understand them more, just shift your perspective of what those battles really are, then I believe you can obviously win. See, I help people make wiser choices, okay? And that's why I listen to podcasts like this. This is going to help you understand yourself better. This is going to help you look at your dreams a different way, look at your challenges, more importantly, in a different way. Look at the challenges, how you can overcome that, redefine them, be on more of a mission, a crusade, so people can really buy into your vision. A lot of people have a great vision, but they have no buy-in. It's a lot because, people are not making maybe wise choices, being around the right associations. I really love helping people gain clarity. One of the things, man, it's just so hard to live a certain way if you don't have clarity. And again, I do think that you do get clarity by just taking a time out, going to even like a bookstore like I do, or a Starbucks or a coffee shop, and just writing and just journaling, or even doing it on a day-to-day basis, right? You need to write out things, a strategy, and execute on your strategy, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't have a strategy, it's hard to wake up in the morning. You don't have a vision. And of course, like the Bible says, without vision, people perish. You don't have certainty. And that's what I help people bring, is certainty. There's a saying in MLM, 1% doubt, you're out. And what they mean by that is, if you doubt yourself, or if you doubt the company, if you doubt your support team, you're out. Meaning you're going to quit. Well, I think that's true in anything that you do in life. I mean, if you really doubt yourself or doubt really what you're doing, you're not going to be fantastic at it. You're going to have your days, and, just because maybe you have a bad day and you don't know how you're going to pull certain stuff off, it is what it is, right? But if you doubt every day, obviously that's a problem. What I love doing with people too is I love help shifting their perspective of what their battles truly are. And I think if we can do that, if we can kind of shift from, oh man, I'm broke, or my relationship is this. Well, what if we shift? What if there's certain things that you could do in your relationship? What is there certain things that you could do, proactively? Hey, it's maybe not get her back, maybe not get him back, but what if you actually did change? What if you actually listened to what he or she was saying in broken relationship? And you actually just started to understand behavioral change, and that it takes 66 days to change a behavior and 21 days to change a habit, and really putting a lot of this stuff that you're thinking and writing into action. That's what I love doing. That's what I want to do with you. I want to help you shift, make that shift. It's a big deal. And that'll come with mindset stuff. We're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk all about how to really unleash your winning mindset through these episodes, and what I do and how I shifted, how I became even a different person and changed certain parts of my personality for the better. Certain things I didn't like about myself, and you can actually do that. And the biggest thing is, I see this a lot with self-sabotage. Part of the battle of you versus you. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about this right now. Is people often self-sabotage if they're not mindful, wise, and willing. Think about that. People often self-sabotage if they're not mindful, wise, and willing. I just want to reinforce that idea that all listeners, all of you, can choose today to fight against who they once were, who you once were or are, and become. You can become who you are made to be. See, that you versus you battle, it's all about that choice and the challenging, rewarding quest that ensues. So that's the cool thing about this, is we have the choice. We can make a wise choice, or we can start making wiser choices in our life to really conquer ourselves, to really become different than we were yesterday. Even, I tell a lot of my clients, if you got 1% better today and you did that for a full 100 days, you're going to be 100% better in 100 days than you are today. And we really underestimate what we can do in a day, but we overestimate what we can do in a year. I would even just say, what can you do in the next 66 days minimum? I had a client who stopped yelling at her kids, and she used to always yell at her kids, raise her voice, et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of parents do. How could you not sometimes, right? If you have kids, like I got 3 kids, a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. But man, what a great story, where she just found her day of disgust, right? Her day of disgust was just like, man, I do not want to be like this parent anymore. I think she screamed at her son, and he was crying on his way to school. This was a few years ago. And I think she just had that day of disgust where she broke down, and she realized, I'm going to start changing myself. Why do I yell at my children? Where does this anger come from? Maybe it was an insecurity that she had as a parent. Maybe it was fear, anxiety, right? So she started to meditate, twice, 2, 3, 4 times a day, guided meditations, having control over her subconscious mind, making sure that she can lower the brain waves. And even when she felt like yelling, walk into her pantry or closet and put on that guided meditation that I gave her and just listen to it, maybe 5 minutes, take a couple deep breaths, do some priming if needed. Kind of getting that perspective, shifting your perspective. Like I'm saying, that's what I do for people. And that's really just the journey of your dreams, because your dreams are never going to go the way that you think they are. The journey of your dreams, the journey of where you want to be, the gap between where you are now and where you want to be is going to be crazy when you actually, if you see it through and have the patience, you're going to be at a whole different place, But that's the most rewarding part about life. And how could you live a life not like that? For me, it's always about that kind of Braveheart life, that freedom, that courage to go after, whatever we got to do, even though it looks bleak, it's all these, mounds of debt or just tons of money, or, how is this ever going to be possible, to connect with the right people, to, have the right staff, to have the right team. To be that type of person that maybe is on stage, a public speaker, a leader, an influencer, has a lot of follows and engagement on social media, whatever it is for you, the fears that we have, it all starts with just inch by inch. It all starts with just understanding, what's my strategy, how I'm executing on that. And I want this client, she started doing it, and a day goes by, 2 days goes by, 3 days goes by, 30 days goes by. 300 days go by, 700 days go by, and I think now it's probably close to 1,000 or more days that she hasn't raised her voice, not once. So think about how that has shifted in her parenting, her perspective, her confidence levels just probably soared that she did something like that, of that magnitude. what other parent can say, yeah, I haven't yelled at my kid for 1,000 days, that unless they don't see their kids. I mean, she has them full time, 24/7. So, and they're young, 12 and under, and 3, if I will say that, it's important for context. But just think about that. You can really be a different person. Wherever you're at now, and some of the things that your past, or some of the things that you regret, or I think a lot of times I keep even look at a money situation, all the money I used to have, or the millions of dollars, where that I made in business. Where is it now? Definitely, some of it I just threw away. Some of it I invested. Investment's gone wrong. Some of it I've given to other people that I thought were going to get a return on investment on it. But you know what? It's all part of the, you versus your dream on that journey. It's all part of it. All these lessons you're learning along the way. Pretty cool. But I really believe that winning the battle between you and your dream starts with getting back to what you were created to be, a dreamer. The average person, I think once they hit the age of 25, I would even say, let's just take 25, 24. You went to college. Let's say you did the college thing. You get your degree, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. Got your degree. Now what, right? What are you going to do now with that degree? And then, of course, you have, 6 months later, a year later, you get all your balance of what you owe that university, and it could be $100,000 or a couple $100,000 in debt, and now you're kind of mid-20s, and you don't really have the opportunity to dream as much anymore as maybe when you're 17, 18, going into college, maybe in a freshman or sophomore or even junior, okay? Because you got responsibility. I gotta take care of this. You can't claim bankrupt. This is the one bill that no matter what, you're paying, okay? You're not getting out of this one. And that's where they get you, right? That's where colleges, universities, they get a lot of people. And especially if you're a business major, but if you're a nurse or doctor, stuff like that, obviously you need your degree. And I'm not knocking education. I think it's awesome if you do the experience, the people, and the friendships that you're going to make, and the sorority, fraternities. I was an athlete, Division I level at Liberty, played football. I mean, a big deal. Really became a man just in those 2 days, and the workouts, and just being around those top athletes. It was awesome. But, how do you dream when you have all this debt coming and pouring into you, right? Well, here's a depressing fact. 2014 study, just 6% of adults end up in the careers they wanted when they were kids. The study didn't examine why most of us don't land in the occupation our childhood selves wanted, however. So that's an open question. The obvious answer is that there were only so many astronauts that NASA could send up to space. In my case, it was because of the Chicago Bulls retiring number 23, okay? When I was in the 8th grade, like I said, the Success Journey, Maxwell, was exercising the book. I wanted to play in the NBA. Loved it, ate it, slept, breathed basketball. I loved it. I played it every chance I got. Tried to catch every game I could between October and April. Okay, and Michael Jordan was my hero. Okay, and one of the biggest things is, that was my dream, but it kept me sharp. It kept me focused. I emulated him, and that's where I got a lot of my coachability from, emulating other successful people. And, the thing is, I have to ask you, what is your dream? Not the one that you had when you were sleeping, but the one that kept you awake. And this kept me awake at an early age. Obviously, it's not my dream now. But a recent imagination report asked nearly 500 kids between the age of 1 and 10 what they wanted to be when they grew up. A doctor was the most popular profession for girls at 16%, followed by a teacher at 7%. Among boys, the most popular future job was pro athlete. There you go, was one of them at 16%. Firefighter came in second at a little over 5%. The report is not without amusement, right? So among 3 to 4-year-olds, the number one profession is superhero. Then there are the desired professions that were too unique to be caught in the report's data dredge. They included kitty cat, dinosaur, hedge fund manager. Guess what his and her parents do for a living? And my favorite, taller. If nothing else, it's a reminder of the refreshing, fascinating way which kids view the adult world. So what age do we start to lose that? What do we lose it at 25? Do we lose it at 26? When does our mind do that whole thing of imposing limitations? That you can't do this, you can't do that. If you think back to when you were a kid in your Superman cape and your parents had to convince you not to jump off the roof. Remember those days you watched Superman? And thank God, I didn't. I'm glad you didn't, because obviously you wouldn't be listening if you did jump off your roof, thinking you're Superman after you saw the movie. I definitely wondered if I could fly. Who were you before you learned that gravity was real? Life happens, right? At a young age, we start fighting the battle against reality and then wage war with it for the rest of our lives, you know? And you're probably at that situation right now where you're waging war. You're wondering, is this my life? You know, I've been there, and you know, the thing is, you got to do something about it. You know, when you're on this path and journey, whether you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or higher. Right now, I'm at end of my 30s, turning 38 at the end of 2018, going into 2019. I mean, I am fortunately on that path. It's taken me longer than I thought, but at the end of the day, I think it's all part of God's plan. But the action has to be taking place. That clarity, that certainty. You know, you have to want to live a life of significance. I think that really is just what it's all about. So reality, okay, right? Reality says that based on your current circumstances, based on the data, based on common sense, this is what your life is going to look like. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Okay. Realistic thinking is important, I think, but I think a lot of college advisors are straight up dream killers. You know, what did your college advisor tell you? What did your high school counselor tell you? A lot of those people could be dream killers. I mean, no offense if you are one, but, they kind of base whatever their, data on maybe your grades. Well, if I was told by a guidance counselor or a college counselor or whatever, my grades were 1.9 to 2.4, in college. So what? I would probably just be a janitor. I don't know, but definitely not a businessman, an author, published author, coach, mentor. People pay me to mentor them in their life. Okay, think about that. Realistic thinking, it really can be the worst thing ever, especially for entrepreneurs. Think of Steve Jobs. He's a poster child for dreaming big despite all the critics and odds stacked against him. He dropped out of college, yay, like me, in 1972. Here's a fun fact. Before he left, he took a calligraphy class and said that if he had never dropped in on that single calligraphy course in college, the Mac would not have, or have never had multiple typefaces or proportionately spaced fonts. Think about that. Wow. He wasn't even a really member of that college, but he just dropped in. Think about that. So again, college is cool. Not bad. But co-founded Apple in his garage in 1976 with a vision to put a computer in the hands of everyday people. Was ousted in 1985 by his own company. Returned to rescue it from near bankruptcy in 1997. And in 2010 had built it up into the world's most valuable company. Okay, you talk about dreams, right? Someone we really emulate. Whether you like him or not, I mean, a lot of people talk about maybe negatively the way he treated people. But what a visionary. You got to respect Steve Jobs and what he did. I'm sure you're listening to this from your Apple device of some sort, like I'm recording it from my Apple device. So think about that. Most valuable company, and is responsible for the Macintosh computer, iMac, iPhone, iPod, iTunes, and Pixar Animation Studios. Apple holds 450 patents and is worth $10.2 billion at the time of his death, or was worth $10.2 billion at the time of his death. When he gave his commencement speech at Stanford University in 2005, he told the graduates, don't be trapped by dogma. One of the greatest speeches, you just check out YouTube, him giving this speech. It's pretty awesome. Which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Those are his words. Am I saying throw caution to the wind and drop out of college? No. I dropped out twice. But more on that in a second. And of course, well, I talked about that already. But I'm saying what the greatest dreamers of all time stop at nothing. I'm saying that the greatest dreamers of all time stop at nothing. And that means something different for everyone. So what is your dropout story? I think it's important that people reclaim their dreams by redefining them. No matter where they are in life, no matter what their age is. It is the only way to redeem what has fallen. Redeem it. Redeem all that. Your failures, there's tragedies, the circumstances in your life. Because look, your identity isn't defined by the dreams you've achieved, but by who you've become and where you've landed in the process of chasing them. So what are you chasing right now? Where are you at in the dream you versus you battle. What are you doing about it? What is your divorce? What is your college dropout story? What is your crushing blow and dashed hope? Sometimes dreams don't come true, but dreaming them drove you towards something. Going after them led you somewhere. Think about that. Even if your number one dream never comes true, but by going after it, it's going to lead you to a certain place in life where you're not going to regret. You're going to be, whoa, looking back and saying, wow, if I hadn't done this, if I haven't met that person, if I hadn't made that decision to go after this dream, but then realize that I have a whole different other dream and a different skill set that I developed that actually people pay a lot of money for, or I can, or I met my wife, or I met my husband, and then we had a baby, and then we moved here, and then, oh my gosh, I got an offer here because I'm pursuing something. I'm not just like Zig Ziglar used to say, a wandering generality. I didn't just kind of wander into the world, came out of the womb, just kind of bumped into this, bumped into that, and kind of ended up there or ended up here. Think about that. It drove you towards something. It led you somewhere. Where did your dreams take you? Where did you find yourself? Where can you go now? Author and philanthropist Sarah Bon Bethnot says, the world needs dreamers and the world needs doers, but above all, the world needs dreamers who do. Don't daydream. Dream, but take action on those dreams. Dream it and do it. Dream it and do it. Don't keep waiting on the outside. What's out there? What am I looking? I'm looking at Instagram. I'm looking at, my Facebook. What is he doing? What is she doing? I'm comparing game. I'm doing all that. That's absolutely not going to be good for you. You got to dream it. You got to do it. And when necessary, redefine and redo. Redefine your dreams today. Maybe it's just so lost. Maybe you have to dust your dreams off. But you got to do it now because you don't have a lot of time. Time's ticking. One of the biggest things about this whole battle of you versus you is add up how many more weekends you have left on Earth. That's a little scary. If you lived to about 100 years old, or even just 75, the average age, okay, before someone passes away of natural causes, 75. What's your age now? How many weekends do you have left? Maybe put a marble. How many Saturdays you have left, on the refrigerator, in a bowl. That'll put perspective a little bit in you. Redefine that perspective. What is that going to look for you? The visual of that. Again, dream it and do it. And when necessary, redefine and redo. You can do this. Dust your cape off and let's fly off together. But this way, in not the literal term, but the fantasy world that actually can come true for both of us. Is it your dream a book? Is it to be an author? Is it to have your own podcast? Is it to be a speaker? Is it to be a lawyer? Is it to be a doctor? Is it to be a nurse? Is it to be a leader in network marketing, an influencer? Is it a person that people want to be like because they followed your example, they see your example, and they want to actually be like you in certain ways? What's your creative character? How can you become charismatic? What's the path that you're following? Because I'm telling you, it does matter. So I want to leave you with this. Every podcast, we're going to, give you a little bit of action. Again, my book's coming out. I'm excited about it. You versus You, the 12 Ways to Kick Your Own Ass and Win, February 19th. It's going to be at Barnes & Noble. You can actually pre-register it right now on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com, put in You versus You, Todd Cahill. You can get your copy now, $19.95. But, I would definitely take some time, over the next week or so, and just write down a few things when it comes to you versus your dreams. Because I did this in 8th grade, and I'm kind of living those dreams even today. Of course, I redefined them and redid them many, many times over, but I had the foundation done. What about writing out a 5-year vision statement? Write it as if you were already living it out, like it already is happening. Take off the judge's robe. Stop judging yourself. You need to be pulled by vision. Without vision, people perish, and it really needs to move you. I did this less than 5 years ago, and one of my visions was to write a book. You are now reading or eventually reading or listening to my dream. What do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want to do in 5 years? What do you want to have in 5 years? But I also believe that if you want to get somewhere, you have to also identify your current reality. And there's 6 areas of your life you have to identify what your current reality is. Financial, where are you at now and where you want to go. Spiritual, where you're at now, where you want to go. Relationships, where you're at now, where you want to go. Health, where you are now, where you're at now, where you want to go. And family. Those are very important ones. And then even mental. Where are you mindset-wise? Are you meditating? Are you really giving yourself time to grow mentally? Are you accessing that subconscious mind through meditation and being the pilot instead of the passenger? I do it twice a day minimum. It allows me to be just that. So this is what I would start doing. This is the homework that I would start doing to put some things in writing so that you can gain clarity and eventually certainty that dream that you're holding inside of you that's maybe you have put away for a while can come up to fruition. You can start really taking massive action on it. And once you make that decision, watch what happens. You versus your dreams. It's worth it. Thank you very much.